for wheat fields that weren't there when I was 25 years old.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. They really did hit a lick down there.
Call for the board of directors workshop, Tuesday, October 7th. Roll call. Here.
Ryan Parker,
Here.
Dale Wilson,
Here.
Charles Kimball,
Here,
And staff.
Kyle Rodman.
Wendy McKay, Ellie Strange, Alicia Burgess, Sarah Klein.
Robert Ray. Vera.
Mitch Wagner.
My brother.
Welcome to the board, please.
Okay, any changes to the agenda? Additions?
No. Not from us.
Okay. Budget 2026 budget.
All right.
Review.
This will be a big one. There's gonna come up and take you through,
Good, big one.
Yeah, right. We'll be looking at the content that was in the proposal and then pivoting to some scenarios that we've also come up with that can help kind of guide the discussion on the rate increase. I'll just say at the opening here, the proposal that we put together is what we think is probably the best compromise that we can think of, but we understand that it's a bigger number than we've seen in recent years and maybe too much for the board wanting to move forward with. So with that in mind, we do have some options to go through to say, you know, if you wanted to decrease the size of the rate increase, here's what that would look like, both in 2026 and beyond. And we'll look at all the parameters that go along with that. And then there will be a separate discussion after that on the structure of the rate increase. So that typically comes down to how do we want to apply it in terms of the basic charge or the energy charge, all those types of things. So several things to go through here. I'll remind everybody that we are meeting with the Finance and Rates Committee on this next week. So Tuesday night next week, we'll have them in and do their normal review of everything. And hopefully after that, we'll have a sense for what they're thinking without all that together and decide where you want to come out on everything. So I'll let Sarah take over.
Good. All right, so here's where we are. So today's your first official glimpse at the budget, at least with staff. Hopefully you had a little bit of time on your own with it as well. And then, like Kyle said, next week we'll meet with the full committee. And then we'll come back in here to meet with you all again to answer any additional questions, concerns. And then the committee will also present their recommendation at that time. And then finally, we'll have the public hearing that's open to the public. And then the final vote is scheduled for November 18th. So budget would go into effect in January and rates either January or April, pending board conversation and decision. All right, so just to start us off, here's where we are, just big picture from the operating revenue and operating expense side of things. We'll just kind of skip right into the detail and get to the nitty gritty. So starting off with retail revenue. Kind of a lot going on, actually throughout this budget. I'll probably say that multiple times. So residential revenue, Rob was maybe gonna talk just a little bit about what's going on there with the weather adjusting and loads. Yeah, we are still seeing a bit of a bump up even without the impact of our rate increase because that's reflected below. Then commercial, we're expecting to kind of levelize. Expecting as much growth in the commercial sector in 2026 based on things we're hearing out there in the real world. And then similarly with industrial, we are expecting a pullback in 2026 based on conversations with those customers.
Yeah, we as far as the 2025 projected, you know, we had a couple of misses in the spring, right? It was warmer than expected spring, and so I think it's kind of comparing to a much lower than expected level for residential. We pulled back a little bit on the residential forecast for next year, knowing that connections are slowing. Some of the bigger subdivisions are slowing down, so the number of customers is less than kind of what we forecasted from a few years ago. So that's impacting that. And we took this is kind of one of our levers for adding conservatism to the budget. You know, we used to play around with hydro levels or slice outputs or wholesale market prices, and we can't really do that anymore. So this is one way that we can add conservatism, just pulling back on our sales side. On the industrial side, we have one customer that's kind of expressed a pullback on one shift. Everybody else is pretty much status quo. And so that is the story there. And on commercial, it's kind of a flat. Again, it's pretty flat. But there still seems to be some chatter out there for some big new connects. So we're paying attention to a lot of everything that's coming in through engineering.
Thank you. And then wholesale revenue, so that's, this is where one of the significant changes is, due to the product switch with BPA from load, or from slice to load following. So really, to look at this budget, you really need to look at wholesale revenue and purchase power and transmission costs as a net impact, to really know what's going on, in these two categories. The only thing that's really left in the wholesale revenue category is the sale of the White Creek Wind output. So the rest of the story is kind of down in the power and transmission cost area, which we'll get to in just 1 second.
So that also explains why the cost of power is lower in transmission, even though the rates are out.
Correct.
Yeah, you have to net those two together. It's
Got it.
confusing. That's
It
why
is.
in the table we put in there, it's about an $800,000 net increase if you have those two line items together.
Got it.
So, yeah.
So it's White Creek is 2 more years or?
2027.
Yeah, that's end of 27, I think. So, yeah, 2 more years counting 26 and 27.
Yeah.
So we end up generally selling that for less than what we pay for it.
In most years, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't say, I wouldn't add generally, I would say fully.
Every year.
Yeah, it's gonna, it really depends, it's indexed to mid-C pricing, so if we get higher market pricing, like we're able to sell it for much higher. And but typically it's we're reselling for much lower than what we're buying it.
The renewable attributes that you get for selling that product have really changed also. I think we were able to get a high number, $30 or $40.
45 this year.
$45 this year, and that's dropping to what, $10 or $10 or $11 per megawatt hour in 26. So it's pretty volatile in terms of, you know, you have the brown power, but you also have this environmental attribute cell. That's variable depending on the year. It sounds like there's some things in California happening that are changing that market. So.
So retail rate increase revenue, this is at a 6% in April 1, 2026. Kyle mentioned that we do have some other scenarios to review with you, so we will leave that one for now and circle back to it kind of at the end of the budget work. So that brings us to total revenues of almost 62 million, up about 3% overall as compared to the 2025 Q2 projected numbers. So power and transmission costs, again, this is reflective of our first full year of load followers with BPA. And it does include the impact of those rate increases on the power side of about 10% and transmission side of about 20%. And again, if you net that with our wholesale revenue, it's an overall increase of about $800,000.
And there's a lot going on here too. I mean, it looks weird to have a decrease, but if you remember in 25, we've been budgeting very conservatively
Yes.
because of the slice product, so that number is probably higher. But again, when you net it all out between the wholesale revenue and the power costs, it's about an $800,000 impact on our operating budget that we're talking about.
And that brings us to gross margin. So we're proposing to budget at about 2.6 million more than where we're projecting to end 2025. So customer support and system maintenance costs are proposed to be higher by about $1 million. A big portion of this is related to labor cost increases, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. Then a couple of new things that are noteworthy. We are implementing a new inspections program. We also plan to join a new external trade organization that is geared towards Bonneville load followers that we haven't been a part of before. And then we plan also to engage with a consultant to help us out to refresh our strategic plan.
Who's the organization?
NRU, the Northwestern Environmental Utilities. So we do have some selective non-labor increases. We really tried to hold it as much as we can, but there's some things in there we can always take another look at too.
So. Gross margin. That's, I was thinking of net income. So that's what goes, use that for capital.
Yeah, that contributes either to cash reserves or to our capital program. So with this, and you'll see in the budget proposal as well, we've tried to design it so we are making some positive contribution to cash reserves this year. So there's about a $500,000 that we're going to be put back into cash reserves to try to make some progress on the days cash on hand number. One of the scenarios we'll look at is if the board feels like that's not a priority, we can back off of that and decrease the rate increase to some level. So that's knowing where we're at with cash. You know, our parameter says within 5 years, we want to get back into compliance with our days cash on hand. We feel like we should be making some steps toward that. There's also this whole thing around FEMA and whether we ever get that money back. And it's very complicated to figure out exactly what's going to happen. The budget does assume we make some contribution toward that.
All right, debt service changes for 2026 based on the new borrowing that we just implemented this year. So there is an increase in our overall debt service payments due to that new borrowing. This number also does include our 2021 borrowing as well as the last year of payments, an interest only and a principal plus interest on our 2013 refunding. So we will be done with that after 2026. Although it is probably a good time to remind the board that we structured our 2025 debt service payments so that that's kind of pretty much level. So we are not expecting a drop off in 2027. Seems so Kurt's nodding his head. He remembers.
5 million should be roughly our level for
For a while.
a while.
Other expenses, there is an increase there due to expectations in property taxes. We've got a sneak peek for what we'll be paying this year. I can't remember. Those numbers came in, I think, after we had done these projections. So a little higher than we had projected at the time of Q2. So adding an increase into 2026.
Question.
Yes.
Do the poll attachment, do they have to pay property taxes on their?
I think so. I mean,
lines?
I don't know how we split that up. They track their wire miles just like we do, so I would assume they're paying something. The bigger cost is obviously in the poles, so that's mostly ours. I can follow up on that. That's a good question. I don't know. Yeah.
Really looking for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have a decent amount out there as assets. So you assume they're paying.
So it's looking like we're gonna start to get hammered by them. The FCC is just gonna bolt through everything once they deal with it.
Yeah, there were some new rules passed recently around the FCC saying, you
Yeah.
know, you can't be discriminatory or you can't be holding back the comms from getting there.
They gotta respond within 30 days.
Something, yeah.
Yeah, 30 days.
So what are they gonna do to you if you don't?
Well, there's rules in Oregon that we have to follow, but the PUC tends to be hands off because of this FCC stuff that happens. So we follow the rules and we try to work with them. There's a certain amount every month that we have to do, and beyond that, it's a negotiation. We try to do that in good faith, but as the one I've mentioned recently, you know, I think they hit us with 600 polls or more in just a couple of weeks, and so that's a lot. That's a lot to deal with.
EFN.
Yeah. I've had good conversations with their general manager recently, and you know, we're working on some things we can do to help. But you know, we do what we can. We have to put our customers, you know, front and center though first. So it's a conversation.
So that brings us to net income of about 5 million, which as Kyle said, about $500,000 of that is slated to potentially go to cash reserves, which just so happens to be the increase also over where we're projecting to end 2025. moving to the capital side of things, the proposed capital budget is a little larger than we're projecting to end 2025. And is proposed to be funded through mostly borrowed funds, from the new 2025 borrowing. A little bit of, net income and, customer contributions as well. And then we'll take a peek at the spending side of that as well.
So those negative gray bars, that's money going back into capital. Essentially.
We get target of 15.7 on capital spending improvements.
That was our forecast as of last month.
Q2 forecast.
Yeah.
So
Looks like we're gonna hit it.
to be determined, we're just about to start on the Q3 review. So I won't wager a guess.
That's down from the budget level. I think budget was like 17 million, so it's down a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're hoping, we got a lot of cable going to the ground, so we're with all that this year.
Stay tuned for more information on that.
Well, what's the difference in the 19 to the 15? What do you plan on doing different? More
Let's talk about that.
contractors?
Yeah, here we go.
So.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, good segue. So this is kind of how we've been categorizing our major capital upgrades and other capital expenses for the last few years. So there's some work planned in the substations, nothing on the transmission side. But the proposed budget is more than we're projecting in 2025 on the substation side. And that includes the delivery of the Pleasant Hill transformer. Help me out. What else is in there?
Expansion.
Oh, add a couple of different subs, some SCADA upgrades. So quite a bit of work in the substation area. Cable and wire replacements are up a bit, as are line conversions overhead to underground, and well, mostly main lines are the increase there.
There's a list in the back.
There is,
Oh, you
and
have
right
it? Oh,
here.
wow, okay.
But you know, you don't see them. I guess I could see them both at the same time.
There's a list
I
of
could cheat.
25 projects and 26 projects in the appendixes.
Gotcha.
Appendices.
Apologies, appendix B is mislabeled. That is, appendix B is the 2026 projects. And appendix A is the 2025 projects. Sorry about that. The online version of that has been corrected, and if you want me to correct your hard copies, I do that too. So on underground replacements, we've talked about last year, mobile home parks a little bit. So it looks like they're planning to go a little heavier on replacing underground in mobile home parks, which we plan to do a little bit differently than some of our other work, by involving a contractor with more of the heavy lifting due to some of the complexities in those parks. What else is big? More work out Mackenzie View, lots more work out Mackenzie View.
Yeah, we've got kind of a new scope of that project. Rather than going under, we're gonna try to build it overhead most of the way. That won't get us the reliability improvement during major events, but it will allow us to carry that load all the way from JC to Mohawk Valley back and forth. So it's a huge redundancy gain. The other-
AC or Covert?
I'm sorry, Covert, yeah, excuse me. So that's typically the pain point is if we have a VPA outage or something, you know, we're always down in Valley, and this will give us the ability to pick up just about everything from the other source. The underground option just gets really gnarly, you know, it was up in the $8 to $10 million range and climbing. And, any money from FEMA that we're hoping to acquire there is looking less and less likely by the day. So we think we still get a really nice product going overhead there, and give us the additional bandwidth we need to be able to pick up.
We're gonna tree wire?
I don't think so. I mean, I think we're rebuilding it like we did there, over on the west end. You know, we've got what kind of cable that is, 336 there? That stuff held up pretty good in the storm. I remember driving down there. The wire went down, the poles held. So there's I think a lot to be gained just from the reproductive process. We'll see if there's any spots that tree wire would help in, but I've kind of been hearing more just regular overhead.
So out of the 19 million, how much of that will be contracted out versus in-house?
Typically just the excavation. We're talking about, although the mobile home parks, I think the idea there is a more of a turnkey solution. So we would bring in somebody just to kind of do that for us, at least the design piece. So maybe there's a little more contractor there, but most of what we do with contractors is excavation. And there's not as
You
much.
just get the continuity on.
Yeah, yeah. So underground cable replacements, maybe a little bit when you get to main lines and some other projects there. You may have the answer on.
So excavation is 3 million, as its own line item in the budget. And then contracted services is 675,000. And part of that is on the O and M side, and part of that will be on the capital side. It's about 63% on the capital side, so a little over half of that is probably going to these mobile home parks. And
Must be some main line. You go to the next page there.
Yeah, sure.
Must be-
Yep.
Yeah, okay, overhead underground. We've got a couple FEMA jobs,
Yep.
Taylor View Road, Williams Creek Road, that are gonna be big excavation.
oh, you know what? There is another view actually that does answer your question, Kurt, but it's not in the slides. It's appendix C. Starts on page 142 in your book. It breaks it down between material contract labor and internal labor by category.
Yeah, that's probably not-
Yeah, me too.
It'd be a good one.
It's a big job, yeah.
Well, it's cross country and we're gonna burn that whole mountain.
We've been trying to keep the FEMA jobs alive. You have to give them quarterly reports, and every quarter we tell them, we're still doing this, it's in design phase. We've got a couple right now that got money for
We got
For
money.
one. covert job, I
Yep.
think, right? The big reconductor we did in COVID last year, just got some money for, we're hoping to get a little.
We're
bit
hoping to
more.
get more, actually, a lot more, like
Yeah.
$200 and some thousand more on that job.
I think that would be better.
Would be, that'd be
Yeah, that's the money we want.
We're asking them to prioritize that.
Yeah. I'm just not seeing the administration send any FEMA money to blue states.
Yeah, it's been
That's it,
quiet for a
that's
while.
it.
It's been quiet for a while.
It has, we recently did follow up with our new program delivery manager, and so this is probably at least our fourth program delivery manager. But she's aware of our project. And thank you, so
Yeah.
whatever that means.
We've had some OEM staff turnover as well. It's been.
We're not even to OEM.
On that one,
claim.
some of these other jobs, the hazard mitigation OEM has been more of the bottleneck as opposed to.
All right. Any other questions on the capital side of things? Does that appendix C help get to your question, Kurt?
When I figured out it is.
Okay, yeah, let me know if you wanna. Spend a little bit more time put that together.
No, I see.
Yeah, perfect. All right, so how are we gonna pay for all this stuff? Is the big question. Again, I mentioned the borrowed funds. We have spent 100% of the funds that we borrowed in 2021. We just did the final transfer, I think it was in May of 2025, related to work that was completed or happened in 2024. And so now we are ready to start using the 2025 proceeds. And actually, I might try to bring in a transfer at an upcoming board meeting for the board to consider.
Or yet this year.
Yes, yet this year. I'd like to get that first transfer done this year. Maybe even two, but I doubt it because Mary Ann's out of the office.
So, question, is there, we have some rule where we have to spend it in 5 years?
Yes, that you need to spend 85% of it within 3 years.
In 3 years.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a tighter requirement.
Is that
a requirement.
I think it's a tax thing.
Yeah, I think they don't want you keeping a large cash balance and making interest off of it, so there's a couple different ways the IRS checks on. We also have to do an arbitrage compliance process, so see, the interest you're making is more than what you're paying for. Yeah.
Which, I mean, it had me sweating a little bit with our rate on the 2021 borrow and how much we were earning.
Yeah,
But so far, we haven't had to pay any penalties. All right, so that brings us to looking at our total debt to total assets. I'm projecting that we're gonna finish the year around 17, or no, we finished actually 2024 at 17%, projecting around 30% for the end of this year. And then that'll start to go down before, up until if we do a new borrowing, which kind of the main scenario in the budget book has us doing a new borrowing in 2029. So this is reflective of that potential, how that might look. Long time out in the future, not asking for a commitment to that today.
I'll put a plug in, though. We do have a priority project for
Yes.
next year that we'll be working on to figure out what is that long-term plan. So one option is, continued moderate borrowing every few years. Another one is to shift our capital spending levels. Another option would be some rate increases to help pay for some of the higher capital we want to do. Or some combination of all those. That's going to be something that we really want to study and work with the board on in 2026 and come to a good conclusion. The current level of capital spend, I think, is not sustainable if we don't take further action. That's a fair statement.
So our, the 30%, so how do our assets grow? So we depreciate them, but
Yeah,
So it
so
depends
we're
on
gonna
your,
spend the next 5 years $40 million or 35, whatever.
Mhm.
Well, our assets won't grow that much.
Well, you have to spend.
But your plant value does.
yeah, they
You have
will.
to spend enough capital to
So
offset the
that
amount of
means-
depreciation you're taking to hold even.
It will go 30% of a bigger number. I mean, if our assets grow,
Not necessarily, because assets depreciate.
that's what I'm
Book value.
wondering.
So we will be putting new assets into the system on our books that they will begin depreciating, but that's at a slower rate than. So our numerator is going to grow faster than our denominator is going to shrink. with our
That's, you know, my
debt
budget
service
every
payments.
year. I know exactly what's going on.
it is.
Your old pickups get to be worth less and less, but the new one you buy adds capital to the front end while it's decreasing
Yeah.
on the back end.
We've gone through those schedules.
Yeah, but there's
He's giving you the bottom line difference based on those calculations, you know.
Yeah, it's usually a net positive for our debt to assets.
If it's not, you're wearing out your plant faster than you're wearing it out faster than you're replacing it.
We could do that future workshop or something around.
But immediate borrowing always slants it, you know.
Yeah,
Look at 17 to 30%, immediate
Oh, yeah.
borrowing, bing, bang, boom.
Yeah.
yeah.
We haven't turned that into an asset yet. What is it? Is that on the books?
Well, it's
Not
not
an
an asset, it's cash.
It's temporary cash. You increase the liability and you
But our
increase the asset.
liability went up.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
So it's really a net in terms of that. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
But the assets we're adding have a higher value than cash that's sitting. So what's it? You look
Depends on how you look
depreciation
at it.
schedule.
Depends if you're buying gold bars or wheat.
All right, so taking a look at how all of this does impact our cash and our days cash on hand. So we've been really focused on our operating days cash on hand. That being the number that really should be meeting the board's 151-day minimum as the parameter. And so that number is highlighted for you. If you look at our total cash, of course, that includes the borrowed funds, which really kind of skews this day's cash on hand number. This forecast assumes the kind of staff recommended scenario, which it includes the 6% April 1 rate increase, as well as a new borrowing out in 2029, which actually this viewpoint doesn't go out quite that far. So again, we'll talk about some additional scenarios, when we get to the forecast section. But what's noteworthy here is that you do start to see our days cash on hand, increase, at least from 27 to 28. And we'll see another viewpoint of that here pretty soon.
I have a question. Does this include, these numbers include the credit line that we established? And are we going to, the one we haven't used, are they included in cash on hand since it's available anytime?
Good question.
And are we going to renew that?
That is a good question.
Wasn't it a 2-year thing?
Yeah.
So that'll end about a year from now, roughly.
I don't think you factored that in though.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
believe
was it
the
10 million? I can't remember. What was
8
it?
8
million.
million.
And I believe the board parameter definition actually does allow us to factor that in, if I'm not
Yeah, it's as
mistaken.
good as cash on hand, because we haven't cost in accruing it.
So that could be a philosophical decision here, is you want to consider that in the parameters that may allow us to back off a little bit what we actually. keep
Well,
in
the
cash.
cost of keeping that available is minimal, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was 40 grand or something, maybe less,
To put it into place, I believe it was something like that, I don't know if
30,
it
40
would
grand.
be
Yeah, it was 40.
less to maintain it, I'm not sure.
It's as available as our borrowed funds.
That's true.
I mean, it's
Cash
Available,
on hand does not necessarily mean an asset. Well,
I mean, it's definitely less or worth less than cash because
Right.
you have to pay it back, but if you're talking about liquidity and that's your big
that's the
concern.
key, yeah.
It helps, yeah.
I
Well,
wouldn't be inclined to include it. Yeah.
We ought to include it somewhere.
We can show you what it looks like both
Yeah.
ways.
We
Yeah,
definitely could take a
it
look
could help
at
your
that.
decision.
the problem with including it is we're changing the parameters of
Yeah.
what we look at each
Yeah,
year.
it changes the
I
look
mean, all
back.
of a sudden,
Yeah, no, you're right.
it's like the schools change the way
Yeah.
they.
That's true, although you did take
Yes.
action to put that in place, I mean, that is, I think the parameter, like Sarah said, does say.
It does say
You can
that.
include a line of credit.
It's not a financial item, it's a,
Yeah.
like you say, it's a liquidity item.
We all know it's there.
Yeah,
So is there a
All that
rule,
pay our bills for not quite 2 months, right? Roughly a month and a half to 2.
something like that,
is
yeah,
there a rule to get us back to 150 days cash on hand?
there's nothing,
Well, the parameter does state
Board
that,
action.
Or
It's the only parameter we've not consistently.
there's nothing
been in.
binding, and we have not been at 150, I think maybe. a
but
year or
typically
two.
our forecasts get us to 150 or 151 within the next 5 years.
Yeah.
And that's becoming
Yeah,
a bit further out, or we're just not getting there.
But to some
I think
extent,
it's a useful way of doing it.
Mhm. Me too.
to some extent, that represents, cash that's unavailable to better our plan or to, improve our
Yeah.
efficiencies.
yeah,
In some ways, it's wasted money part.
it's non-productive, it's
But it's not-
working capital, but
Yeah.
yeah,
It's not that it doesn't get used, but tying that up means it's not available for another purpose, like another
Yeah.
substation for Doug.
and it's customer money, and so yeah.
or a storm?
We do wanna be good stewards.
When we talked, I will say, when we talked to
Or a storm,
Moody's and
or a
Fitch,
storm.
the rating agencies, they asked us, what is your plan to get back to 150? So they're curious about that.
Yeah, okay.
And the cost of that money is higher than the borrow. If we use the line of credit, is it not?
Yeah,
It was cheap.
yeah, I don't remember, it was a
It's a
base
very-
number plus
plus
a
a variable.
index, yeah. Can't remember what it came to, but it's probably a little higher than what we borrowed. But we borrowed for long term, so that raises the interest rate on the average. We can give you a that.
Maybe just list it either way, so
Okay.
we know where we are, and then we won't have to make a hard
That's a good
decision about
takeaway.
it.
Yeah, that's a great reminder.
It's good to know you got $100 in your shoe,
Yeah, as long as we know what it's there for, it's really if we get into a cash crunch, if we have a storm or something along those lines, then we've got an outlet, but it's not a long-term
The
solution.
numbers are really looking at those days operating cash, not
Correct.
including
Yeah.
reserves.
Correct.
Right, yeah,
So
All right, so looking at the board financial parameters and what this proposed budget, does to change those, we would project that total debt to total assets would come out about 28%. Debt service coverage ratio about 185, which is one of the ones we're really focused on. Operating ratio 1.07, operating days cash on hand, once again, 126, and holding the rate stabilization fund steady. So again, it's the debt service coverage and the operating days cash on hand that we're focused on. We'll talk more about the debt service coverage ratio and what potential rate actions do on that number. The lower the rate increase, the more potential there would be to need to tap into rate stabilization, should there be a terrible year.
Yeah, that's one we don't mess with, right? Miss your debt coverage, you're in all kinds of trouble, so typically we've been over 200 in recent years. I think we were just under 23, 24, as we put some money back into rate stabilization, but
Yeah, we did.
starting to push too much on the rate increase and moving it down is gonna affect that number. Makes me a little nervous, so setting it at 185, I think we can live with. Going too far beyond that level, you start to really wonder, what if there's a big event? What if there is something that we have to cover? Which I think is less likely now that we're not a Slice customer, but
Yeah, especially on the O and M side.
on the O&M side especially, so I think the risk is less now. It makes sense to run it a little lower than we have been, but
We're not going to withstand another $12 million disaster very well.
well, I mean,
Yeah, we are with a great big rate increase.
frankly, we've got now $50 million in the bank. We could absorb that. That doesn't hit O&M, so that wouldn't be a debt coverage thing.
And the line of credit.
Get the line of credit, so yeah, I agree with you. We do not want that, but
No.
if we did, we
The
could
last one still stings.
we can figure it out.
Would we use the rate stabilization? Say we needed $1 million.
Mhm.
Would we not use that before we used our line of credit?
Just to level set on rate stabilization real quick, the thing that's useful with that is not that it's a pot of cash sitting somewhere, it's that it has an income statement effect. So if we get close on debt coverage, we can use rate stabilization to essentially increase our revenues for the year. And if we get close to 130, we can bring it up to say 150 or 160. So it's an accounting mechanism that we can use, because when we put money into that account, we took a hit on debt service
Yeah, yeah,
coverage
you're right.
when those happened.
Yeah, you're
So
right.
what you can do is put it opposite. You take money out and put it into your general fund, and that increases your debt coverage. That's really what it's for. It's not a pot of money for reserves. We got other reserves.
And the $500,000 that we're talking of allocating to cash from net,
Mhm.
that doesn't go into the rate stabilization.
No, we're just talking about building general reserves.
That would take board action.
Maybe we ought to start making that a budget priority every year.
We did $500,000 last year,
Yeah, I
right?
think that.
We
that's
should-
way at it.
1.5 in
Oh,
2023,
right.
but you probably voted on it last year for a 2023 entry, so.
That's kind of what we did to get the ball rolling. Let's at least throw it on the, in the conversation, see if this is something that y'all are interested with. Like I said, FEMA could come in and save the day, and then we're, if we get that $9 million, everything's great. We don't have a problem.
Oh, that stream is over.
It doesn't seem like that's.
Yeah, but even if they do, and they don't going forward, which is probably, we're
Yeah.
gonna have another storm. To
Yeah.
think that this is the last storm there's gonna be more.
Yeah, like you said, a lot of utilities are starting to think about how do you fund
They put it in there.
these types of things going forward. We can always borrow for it, but that's not a great way to run things either. So be nice to have something on hand.
All right, should we talk about rates?
Let's do.
Let's do. All right, thanks. So this is
Before the
just,
tea first.
yeah, we need cookies. So this is a nice view of how rates have changed over time. Especially love that middle section of zeros in there during the COVID times.
That was nice.
Yeah.
What a great time to be alive.
Yeah. So here we are today. We had a 5% in 24, 5% in 25, and then the proposal includes a 6% in 26. And we'll talk about some alternatives there as well.
You divide that over the whole period, it's not very high percentage on a 10-year basis.
That's true. I don't know if you saw I
0.5%.
did a posting for customers last week about the inflation pressures in our industry. If you haven't seen that, I would check that out.
On YouTube or something else?
That was Omaha Public Power District put it out. They go through every cost category: concrete, steel. It's a hockey stick, straight up, and those are the things in our industry that are affecting things.
Everything that building stuff has just gone crazy.
Yeah, it's level off, but it hasn't gone down
I
where
wouldn't
it
say it's
was.
gotten any cheaper.
No. I mean, we're kind of following the curve here to some degree, and don't love it, but at the same time, we've got to.
Not much you can do about it.
solve it. Yeah.
So here's how we stack up against some of our neighbors potentially. So we've got some 2025 information on there mixed in with some 2026 potential. I don't know how many of these are final.
Million
Some of them are research.
What's that?
This is total bill amounts.
Monthly bill.
Residential monthly bill at 1,300 kilowatts.
Oh, okay.
Kilowatt hours, yeah.
A lot of the information is pulled just from publicly available information in board meetings or plans, or some are even announced.
Oh, I know on the left, I was looking at the right, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. That's in millions, yeah, that's just with our.
Is that compared to the same number of customers?
Yeah, so you look at all the residential usage on our system, multiply it by our rates, and
Oh.
multiply by their rates.
I got it,
You
I
get
got
the
it,
difference.
that makes sense. Quite a difference, 15 million bucks.
There you go.
Does that assume a rate increase for both next year? Yeah.
That's all. It's the rates that we know about for Pacific Core and us.
So when I thought about the rate increase this year, I looked at, well, is 6 reasonable? You look at these charts and the answer is kind of yes. But I don't think that's where the conversation should end. I think we need to be really serious about whether that's the right thing for our customers. But if you just look at the neighborhood of what everybody else is doing, it's kind of in the ballpark. If not, we're maintaining our position relative to everybody else.
It's a pretty meaningful way to compare a couple of other utilities' capital budgets relative to their sales, but you're not comparing the same thing to the same thing. Rural versus urban, so on and so forth, it's a different kind of a measure.
Yeah, it gets tough.
You couldn't find an easy way to compare.
We could do some comparisons, but
Well, I'll put Doug on the, I can put Doug on the spot, or is our infrastructure, where do you feel it is compared to the local utilities? Do you mind going out on a limb on that?
Well, there's a huge difference between us and EWAB or sub.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
Realistically, you wouldn't count them.
Yeah, well, even looking at the other side, we're kind of in the middle of where you have Lane, well, actually on the one end as far as density, and then EWAB and sub on the other.
Yeah.
we're a little combination.
Good point.
Probably closer to Atlantic Lines though.
Well, they both have more line miles per customer than we do, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's, so you can't really compare it directly, that's the trick. Has anybody ever done any thought into how we best compare with other utilities in Oregon like that? I mean, say Tillamook or Central Lincoln, or, I mean,
Yeah.
it all depends on how many trees do they have, how many highways, how many mountains they got from. It's really hard to get a unique, uneven perspective.
Even board philosophy, I mean, we've
Yeah,
committed to
yeah.
reliability and strategic
Yeah.
plan.
Tree trimming.
No, that's a good point too.
We tend to be on the higher end of the Oputa utilities, although we've gotten closer. I don't know everything that goes into that. We're a newer utility too. We had original system data up until recently. So
Really
there's
good
that
point,
but
yeah.
There's a lot of factors.
We're
We're unique.
Yeah.
If you look at all the
Yeah,
PUDs,
the Google-
we're really unique. We're the only one that is in that urban growth.
Yeah.
zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
We don't
know,
have a
that-
Google
that
in our
provides
district.
consistent year after year growth.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Northern Wasco has a sugar daddy up there.
Yeah,
It's down, so-
But we benefit from suburbanization of the Eugene Springfield urban area, which has grown our district.
Tillamook has the offshore, I don't know how much revenue they get for those cables coming offshore in their area.
Do they run that, or
Well, I
I don't know either, yeah.
is there a big power need for that? I don't know.
No, but I think they get for allowing them to land there.
Is it like Eastman or something?
Those
It's
international,
weird to think about, isn't it?
international,
That's a
The
big
internet, yeah.
thing for Facebook
Yeah.
or something.
I don't know, but they all, everybody has some. I was wondering, like, we say we spend our annual budgets with capital was 75 million and we spend 20 million
Yeah.
a year on improvements. What does somebody else, that percentage versus,
Oh, I think we're a lot higher than most. That'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, I think so too, although I did see eWeb's CapEx number
Yeah,
not long ago, 125, 130 million.
Does that
I
include?
think it was like
water, too?
$1 billion over 10 years or something. is what I saw.
Is that power only? It has. That includes
Yeah.
water. Good, they're just.
And they did
Well, that's the other thing, same thing with sub, you know, you
Yeah, yeah.
can't
It's
throw
hard.
water in there and,
Yeah.
you know, I
it's
mean,
complicated.
I don't think eWeb subsidizes their water side as much as sub does, do they?
I have no idea how that all works. To me,
Oh,
that was the biggest shock of the whole subject. It's like, wait, we got one of these paying for the other one? That seems wrong. But yeah, UWeb, they did a 7% last year or something,
Yeah.
and then a 3% this year. So a lot of that was for capital work that they are they say they're behind on.
What's Pat Corp's projected to be in 26?
A little more modest digits. Yeah,
It was,
digit.
yeah.
I think it's 5 to 6, I can check with us. It's not double digits.
They just did it 9.
Is that because the state stepped on it?
I think that's part of it. I think there's a
Yeah.
rule now, they can only do it every 18 months or
Yeah, they can
something.
only do it on certain. Oh, that's now.
Things that end in Y.
Yeah.
Pissed about that.
Yeah. So these are interesting markers, but there's no perfect comparison, it just kind of tells you
Yeah.
how we're doing compared to everybody else.
So what is the right line? Total residential billing in millions. But
Yeah.
that's assuming the same number of customers or?
Yeah, if our customers were still
Oh.
on.
Okay, you
The old
did describe that, I'm
bracket, yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, you described that, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
That's a
no
significant
problem.
difference.
That's kind of how we get to that 30%, yeah.
Fair enough. 6 doesn't look quite so bad then.
Yeah, what I found though, I mean, I've been struggling with this because it's a bigger number that we've had, it's just like. To any customer, it's relative to where you are, and you know, we can put this chart in front of them all we want, but then it's like, you're still going up 6% from my monthly budget, it's still hard, I mean, I
It's
don't
our-
know what to
We
do
didn't
about
get
that.
their health
highest
insurance renewals
increase in a
this
decade.
January.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time we did one that large.
We could blame some of it on
10
Monica.
years, 10 years.
Yeah,
It's a good time to blame it on
Well, if
Monica.
I'm trying to collect correctly, Monaco goes flat after this for till 28, correct?
yeah.
For-
And that's part of the calculus here too, is if we take our medicine in 26, then we probably don't have a bigger one coming.
And they did this because they had a 3-year rate case to finish out to the 28 term, right?
Bridge, the
Got it.
better choice.
Is it normal to do every 2-year arrangement then on 2-year rate case? Got
Yeah.
it.
And so moving forward in the multi-year forecasting, we've got kind of 3%, 5%, 3%, 5%. It's on that bond, it'll cycle.
I see,
Larger.
I got it. I'd like to run their budgets, I'll bet that's a hair terror.
It's a lot of work,
So
We've been into this and we can come back to labor.
probably, yeah.
the impact of January increase versus April increase. It's just that's just typically so people don't notice it as much.
Yeah, so if you want my opinion on that, we'll get to this, but
Oh, is that coming up?
yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
we talked about this 2 years ago, if you remember, we had that same discussion because we had power cost excursion and we were proposing a 7% April 1st. And we said, well, if we did it January, it'd be 5%. And at that time, the board was like, well, that's a meaningful difference and we want to do it in January. I think the same calculus here still applies, but I don't know what customers think one way or the other. That's where we need your input.
It didn't go well last January, I think, because of the fact that it was winter,
Yeah,
and the impact was a lot greater than it would be spread across the board.
yeah. I come back to it's a one-time event though too, so you know, they're gonna get the increase next January and they had the increase we did last year.
Yeah, you don't
is-
gain
Is in
anything.
effect,
It's all the knowledge.
it's messaging, it's, are they gonna blame us for a high winter bill? That's the biggest concern. I think.
Yeah, and the potential there is for brush fire to get started.
Yeah.
You know, and I think if we can avoid that,
Yeah,
Well, they can go to sub or they can go to sub. That's the only way they're gonna get a cheaper deal if they don't like us. Honestly.
well, I don't think that's the point, though.
Well,
I think
it's
it's
smart.
we'd just rather not let the brush fires get started.
Well, did we have pushback from doing it in January when you said it was a big deal? Who, what do you mean?
I got a lot of pushback.
I didn't hear Pete about it.
I didn't hear.
the first year we got nothing because the ice storm happened. Every bill was messed up, but this last year, I don't know how much we heard in customer service.
I mean, I think that the hard thing, it was a combination last year, right? We had the rate increase. People's bills had been lower because most of them were on power.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's a.
Right,
So the year over year.
And you
You
look
look
before,
at the
look a lot
bill, they
better.
say January.
And it was cold.
Everybody
Those
forgot how cold they
bills.
were. They just remembered they didn't have a big bill to pay.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Well, we showed that to them on the bill.
It's hard,
Yeah.
Yeah,
so we don't have that working against
I
us.
think April 1's the easiest word choice.
Yeah,
Even though economically might not be the smartest, I think it's the best choice.
I think that's a good subject. Rates committee.
yeah,
To get a bigger.
Well, they're more the public.
we'll certainly cue that up for that.
They're more of a user.
Would you rather have a lower increase earlier or not?
That's such a big difference to me, a 2%, we're taught, that's a
It's a lot.
30% difference.
Yeah. And that also has longer term ramifications, so if we do back off and do January, that means our rates moving forward are lower, the baseline's set over, so that could mean we need to do something a little larger in 27, 28. Versus if you did a 6 in April, that's probably not the case, so there's some interesting stuff that goes.
Yeah, and I like the way that cycles. I think, it takes the heat off of those off years.
Yeah, so Sarah can run through this, I guess,
Sure.
yeah.
But so, this scenario, is sort of the main scenario that was presented in the budget proposal. So it's a 6% April 1, 2026 increase. So it is, the best scenario as far as breathing room, looking at our debt service coverage. And then, days cash on hand, kind of stabilizing, even increasing out there in 2028. From an operating standpoint. So let's freeze this scenario for a second. If we want to skip ahead and look at a scenario that gives us the same net income in 2026, but is a January 1 rate increase, that would be 4.5% on January 1. So it gets us to the same exact spot in 2026. But this is where you start seeing what Kyle kind of referred to as resetting that baseline. So in the out years, especially with days cash on hand, you can see the impact that having that lower baseline has. So therefore, it could impact your future rate making decisions a little bit more in the out years.
At least less operating cash on hand than the other alternative though.
Correct.
Well,
So it almost needs to be a 5 versus a 6.
Could be.
4.75.
It's 4.5 just because it gets us to the same spot in 2026, but we can do any scenarios you guys
So it's
are
not quite the
interested in.
2% difference that we saw 2 years ago, it's now 1.5, yeah.
I think that works, but I do think we could probably consider in 27 doing that 3% in January, which gets us 4 months ahead of the curve.
Yeah, there's different options.
I mean, that's
Let's see what the rates
increases in 8 months.
Let's see what the public says about it in their
The
meeting.
timing question,
Yeah, we can go either way.
Okay,
Let's see what their point of view is.
yeah.
They may be like us, they may be kind of ambiguous.
I mean, the worst case scenario
About
is we have a really cold December and then all the January bills are high. It would have been high anyway, but they also happen to have our rate increase attached. It's
Yeah,
our
yeah.
problem, as we raise rates. So that's the worst case.
Well, let's see what they have to say about it. I'd be interested in what different people in the group have to say.
just for fun, while we're on the topic, if the board was inclined to continue with an April 1 date, but reduce net income. So that there isn't that 5 million increasing our cash reserves. That would look something like this. So again, decreasing net income in 2026, but keeping those rate increases the same in the out years. Slightly worse result here, but not terrible.
This is doable. Yeah, I mean, again, maybe based on feedback from that group, how you all are feeling over the next month. This is doable. We could go with this route. It just doesn't make progress on cash reserves or days.
Well, I think for cash reserve our target, we need to make, if we're gonna borrow in 5 years, we need to start making a meaningful demonstrable
Yeah.
difference and getting that where it needs to be.
That's where we came down. That's why we proposed the 6 instead of 5, but
About 6% on April 1, that's my belief right now today.
All right. we could look faster.
Well, I'm just part of it.
Okay, so one more scenario, which is the least best scenario, is just for demonstration, 4% January 1. So again, spreading it out for the full year, but getting the overall increase down and also impacting net income similarly. So taking away that 500,000 going to cash reserves gets us somewhere like this.
This would be, again, if rates are the end all be all decision right here, we want to keep as low as we possibly can. This would probably be as low as we want to go. This would cover the Bonneville increase, plus the COLA, not much else. That's pretty much what we got here.
And that 2027, we'd have to have conversations about that debt service number right off the bat, plus that cash number. It demonstrates how today's decisions really impact
Yeah.
future discussions.
Such is life.
The only other option would be just would be cut out capital stuff or delay it. Of course, that's
That helps cash.
That's not
It
operating.
doesn't help,
No, it's not operating funds, so it
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
yeah.
Plus you, as
Plus
you
we've got the
indicated, we
borrow
have
funds
to
that
do
we
it.
use that.
I get it.
All right, well, we will go into detail on this with the finance and
Yeah,
Finance committee
okay.
next week, and they will be reporting back to you on October
2 weeks.
23rd. So to be continued.
I think this will be really interesting. This is maybe more than ever a year that, you know, their recommendation I think could be really helpful.
Yeah, you're right.
in navigating some of these issues.
When rates aren't going up, everybody looks like a hero.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, you know, we could just say, look at the chart, we're fine, we're staying below everybody except sub. But that's not what we do, so we wanna hear from them.
You look at all the parameters, trying to sort out which ones matter the most.
Yeah,
All right, so let's circle back to the labor side of the budget. So the 2026 proposal includes a stable headcount, so no change, no ads, no planned retirements that we're aware of there in 2026, at least as of the last time Alicia and I talked. So very stable. So we have been in the habit of providing these charts for you, so these are updated with the 2026 proposed numbers. Quite a bit of stability here. Looking pretty good. So the dollar impact on the labor side is about 1.2 million between projected and proposed, which does feel like a large number. So about 500,000 of that is related to the proposed cost of living adjustment of 3.3%, which is based on all of the indicators we typically use, or data driven approach to return that proposed number. There's about 0.2 million or 200,000 for a mid-year market wage adjustment, which is basically all the work that the board has recently been doing with Alicia and Kyle. That's a placeholder for those positions that are out of line with current market rates.
that's planned for July 1, as we've talked about or something. Yeah.
Correct.
Why is labor for capital and expenses different? Well, it's a bigger variance on capital. It seems like it would be the same in both.
Yeah,
Just the size of the budget.
yep, it is.
Yeah, I like seeing it split out like that.
Yeah,
I understand, but I
It-
mean,
it's a,
it goes up a higher percentage on that part of the budget than the other one does. That's
Well, I
why.
think it's because it's a fix. They're both going up 600,000, but the capital budget's smaller than the expense budget, so the percentage is naturally larger.
But if the capital budget's smaller, the labor cost should be smaller and it should be proportional, shouldn't it?
I think we're spending more time on capital next
I
year.
think we are planning to, and we have so far this year spent more time on capital than the original budget called for. That is always a little bit tricky, because, I mean, it's a guess. It's a budget guess. So I would encourage focusing on the total labor costs.
If you remember, we're going from 15.7 million this year to 19 million next year, so there is an increase on
Okay.
capital versus O and M next year that we're planning on at least. That's a good question.
It's our best prediction.
So isn't our capital labor what's left over from everything else that we have to do? I mean, we
Well, we're staffed to.
A little bit.
we have a certain
Be able to do the
certain number of
capital.
crews, so if
Right, but-
we have to fix this, we have to fix that, we have to fix that, then we, as long as we take care of the
some
day-to-day
degree.
stuff,
Fixing
then
versus improving.
Yeah, some of the fixing ends up being
Is
capital
capital.
work, so, you know, you
when
go
you
out.
fix something, it
Yeah.
becomes capital.
If you
Yeah.
just replace a pole that a woodpecker damaged,
Or
that's
somebody-
that's capital for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, or-
It's hard to define what capital is.
Right.
Capital.
Flip side of that,
Yeah.
the way to look at it
All
is that we just took CapEx away. We have way too many people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's right,
We
actually.
didn't do it, yeah.
Well, yeah, we have to find a lot of repair work, so.
Yeah, that's true.
A lot of tree trimming.
I mean, it'll never go away completely, but I think this will be a discussion next year.
All the trees are trimmed.
What is the appropriate level of capital?
But there's I think there's a balance there.
Yeah.
That we have to. So we have people. Kind of not dedicated, but doing capital improvements, but they, in a emergency or they're available.
Yeah,
Sure.
it goes both ways.
So, yeah,
But this is gonna be, I think, a very important topic next year is figuring out what is that long-term capital spend. What should
Yeah,
it look like?
I agree that we have to make some hard decisions
Yeah.
about it.
We got some time, like I said,
Yeah.
This current borrowed funds is gonna last us for a few years here, so. Got some time, but if there are changes to the amount of capital work we wanna do moving forward, that's resources, that's people ultimately that we need to figure out, so.
so I had a thought that sometimes scary, but, so if we have to spend that money count in 5 years.
85%.
So
Three
less, so if we wanted to stretch that out and to maintain our 4 crews into the future, say, is we buy equipment and materials and put it, park it somewhere. We spend, it's all money.
Yeah,
And
well-
then we stretch the installation of that stuff out over.
yeah, you're getting at something that's, yeah, it's true, it's money's a bit fungible in that way.
But by borrowing, using borrowed money to fund capital, you delay a possible rate increase to use current funds to pay for repairs. For instance, our capital expense is partly borrowed money and partly current money that we're using to pay for capital.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So by borrowing more money now, you put off having to use current money until later. So you still
Right.
save the asset in a
You're
different
you're
way.
not spending your net.
Unless you expect the poles to go up in value while they're stored, which is a valid argument.
Yeah,
They may be worth more than the interest on the money, who knows? I mean,
see, yeah,
it's inflation versus rot.
well, that's kind of, yeah. You know, I bet tarps, we put tarps over them.
well, it's what Ryan always says about those 21 funds, we got a 2% interest rate, and you know, how much has inflation though gone up?
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah, it was cheap money, but at what price on the other end,
Yeah.
you know, and it was way beyond
So,
anybody's
so
control.
Yeah.
the projected $25 million borrow in 2029 is really probably 20 million
Right,
now.
The other option is to start raising rates soon so we can build a trust fund of our own that we use for that capital down. the
yeah, I
road.
mean,
You know, maybe not 25
Before the
million.
borrow in 21, that's how we did it.
it is true, yeah, I mean, 5 million in net income is not gonna go a long way to pay for capital work, say that, so.
Well, I mean, build it over.
But our net income ran
Yes.
6 or 7 million through a lot of those years.
That's true, and we can get back there, but it is gonna take some
We
great
had a
action.
discussion about, you know, paying for things slowly as they wear out, rather than paying for them with current funds that aren't gonna wear out for 40 or 50 years.
Yeah.
Yep.
These are complicated issues.
This is gonna be a big one for next year. I'm looking forward to working through this with you all. I think we've got some levers we can pull, but it's gonna be a good conversation.
Yes, all right, so back to the labor side of things, again, forecasting some medical cost inflation, both on the admin side of things, which includes a component of insurance coverage to cap our exposure on the claim side. And then the other 100,000 or so is just that are in the steps and getting increases, and the people that weren't here all of 2025, but will be here all of 2026. Right, and we already did this part.
Amazing, about an hour, you got through it all.
I don't
No,
think so.
Publish a timeline, we did.
So anything else in particular you want us to take to the committee, any questions that you'd like to have them address, and we'll do the standard stuff. I've heard definitely timing of the rate increase, size of the rate increase.
I'd like to hear their opinions about the current level of capital and you know, explain to
Okay.
them what we're spending it on and see what their
Yeah.
opinions are about that.
That's
That's
good.
more than one meeting all by itself.
Yeah.
but-
We also have the survey we did earlier this year, if you remember, and we got some pretty good feedback that
Yeah.
customers are willing to pay a little bit more to have capital work done.
Believe me, I'm a big believer in staying ahead of the curve on
Yeah.
infrastructure. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
6%, a little bit more.
If you assume that 1 or
It
2%
depends
of
on who
that's
you
for
ask.
capital, yeah, I mean, the 6% is a lot of different things, right? It's Bonneville, it's the labor,
Yeah.
it's,
You'll make it clear, obviously, we'll
Yeah,
make it
and-
clear to them that the Bonneville thing isn't gonna continue every year.
yeah,
Our residential demographic is pretty diverse.
yeah,
You know, I mean, there are people that hurts.
Yeah.
It's hard to ignore that. And there are people that it doesn't really matter. You know, they're generally just wanna make sure the power stays on.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know where that price sensitivity is, where we really hear from people. Maybe this is it, I don't know.
I apologize, I haven't had time to read through the budget very well, but where are we on subsidizing energy efficiency? Are we going beyond still what Bonneville is paying us back? Or are we getting more conservative on that?
I think we're close to what,
My sense, we shouldn't be adding money into that at this point. I think we have better uses for our money.
I think it's pretty
Am I
conservative.
saying that correct?
yeah,
No self-funded.
I don't think we should we should sweeten the pot out of our budget. I
Yeah.
think we ought to just do what Bonneville's given us money to do more of that.
where do we end up?
About 80,000
Okay.
in self-funding.
That
That sound right?
includes- And that includes probably the 60,000 that we're planning on continuing to offer the generator program, which we get no money from Bonneville for.
I think that's a lot of money for that myself.
You come back.
I think we need to
there.
consider putting a limit on that. That's more money than I
That's,
ever
yeah, that's the limit that we have this year
for 25.
for 2025, so we could.
You really
scale
know
that
how
back
many,
next
how
year.
many projects has paid for? Couple of hundred, several hundred?
Yeah, about 60,000 divided by 500.
120?
300.
So our motivation for our
Close to,
energy conservation is to lower the amount of tier two we pay. in the future. That's essentially what we're getting,
Yeah.
but are we,
Yeah.
When we get to tier two.
we're well into two.
We're,
Yeah,
we're there.
well, in
Yeah,
tier
we're there.
two, yeah.
So
Ideally,
Conservation.
we wanna do is move it around so we don't bump up into the.
You're offsetting high $60 power with energy measures that typically are,
And the demand and the capacity.
yeah.
it's the only way we can sell it to our customers.
But we don't,
Where does, Rob, where does load following put us now on that, Rob, generally speaking? I mean, do you have a sense of that? Where, now that we load follow, instead of taking our own production risk, what kind of return might that give us in terms of the peakiness of our power
It's
needs?
pretty easy to figure out now, right? Because we know what the price of tier two is. We know what the price of demand is every month. And so you can then say, well, is this measure cost effective?
right,
Well, that's what I'm getting at, like, for
Yeah.
instance, are we gonna take peak off, but if we do X something another for somebody, will it help the peak load problem? Cause that's really all we care about.
Yeah.
If it moves the peak around to where it's in an off-peak time, great, we've done it.
yeah,
All of our.
So the question
programs-
becomes, what's the cheapest way we can do that?
Yeah.
Right, all of our programs are more focused on demand savings, measures that save demand
Right.
than others, right?
Well,
So-
my thought was, an $80 timer on a water heater is cheaper than a heat pump water heater.
no, that's true.
Yeah, but we get no money, we get no money from that.
I understand, but it's an $80, I'm not counting install,
Yeah,
I mean, those are simple things.
Yeah.
yeah.
And it doesn't look like the electric car thing's gonna go crazy in the short term, so I don't know if that's an issue. I mean, it may grow, but I don't think it's gonna take over in 5 years like we all thought.
Can't.
We still do incentives for that, well, too.
You can't
Yeah.
deliver it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't deliver it.
But it looks like in the budget, we're about break even in terms of, we're just using the Bonneville money primarily.
It's not big,
We
man.
have the clean fuels money too, that will probably
Yeah.
monetize next year.
I forgot about that.
And so that helps pay for.
And that goes away when our power generation at the dump goes away, correct?
No, that goes.
Oh, no, that's the electric car.
What's going on with light heat this year?
We're still planning on, I think, getting our normal amount. I don't know
Was
if
that
that
a
other
federal
conversation-
stopping block
Right,
or something?
but we haven't had any word that they aren't going forward with light heat. Now, they've extended the opening date to December 1st this year. They're giving themselves, I think, a little bit more time to kind of get through and get applications and kind of from last year. But they, so far, what we know is first business day of December.
Right, and nothing's getting done of any kind.
Yeah. I mean, that could
Even worse
change,
than
but-
usual.
Yeah. We've budgeted our same rough amount for low income support that we know our own funds that we use. See if light heat's not there, we may need to increase that. That's gonna be tough for customers.
We probably want to talk about
Yeah.
that.
Well,
That would
if
be-
we increase that, we decrease the switches.
I think we're funding too many generators. I think we need to pull it back. That's my opinion.
Yeah,
Not to zero, but I think we need to put a number, so many projects per year and that's it.
that's definitely doable.
First
I-
come, first
I
served.
think 60 was kind of arbitrary for this year, but we can look lower.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's our first year, it may not be like that.
That's true. There's a lot.
that's
of
a good point too.
First year.
One big
major
storm.
event.
One big storm, then it goes off.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's the first year with
Switch. General.
Yeah, yeah.
That has been really popular.
Are we gonna do like the rate design thing or discuss it all?
Yeah, we could do that.
Is that coming up?
Yeah,
Okay.
you
Yeah.
ready?
Oh, well, I don't.
I think we're ready for it.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
Let Rob do his part.
Yeah, I gotta get set up, but
I got a beer keg over there.
Keg.
I had to do this with Ellen. Just kidding. I found out Lane was at $49 base charge.
Yeah.
So
We'll take a look at all of them in a minute.
They made a lot of progress.
Not the tip, so I don't spill it.
We'll get you a sippy cup for next meeting. I'll bring one of my grandsons,
Tippy cup.
I'll bring one of my 3-year-old grandson's cups for you.
So we'll run, I think we provided these in the packet, these slides in the packet, so, but we wanted to run through them again tonight, and they look really familiar. We took a really similar approach as last year, putting this together. Most of it hinges on what we want to do in the basic charge. And so all of this is focused on the recommended 6% rate increase effective in April. We've got other scenarios that we built out, mostly for a January start dates, but we can play around with all of this number, but everything that follows here is really focused on that recommended number. We saw this chart earlier, but this is what the average residential bills look like for next year, this year. Just a high level reminder of kind of how we built these rate ideas. Again, it all flows from the strategic plan guidelines that are still in effect, where irrigation rates want to increase those a little faster than the other groups. Try and get the basic charge close to cost of service. We don't want to increase any one sector more than 10% in a year, and everything should reflect 100% of cost of service. Got the two scenarios with two different basic charge options, and the multiple meter discount is still in there. We're not changing the multiple, it's not getting any lower, it's just kind of going up proportional to the residential basic charge. Basically, the discount has been fully implemented, so there's not any more to do there. We'll take a look at that whole thing in next year's COSA to make sure that we've got that discount at the right level, and does it make sense to continue to offer it, among a lot of different things that we're going to look at in next year's COSA. Power costs are what is it, 2% ish of the total revenue, or the rate increase requirement. So we've always asked, well, should the rates reflect that? Should we put more emphasis on energy and demand because our power costs are increasing? But there's risks associated with that, right? We've got a couple of charts at the end here, Kurt, that kind of help address your question about like, what is the risk of different rate designs based on the kind of usage patterns. This is where basic charges have been, kind of weird to think about a $10 basic charge. It seems like a long time ago.
Oh, if you're an IOU.
Yeah, right, $10, $12.
Problems in other states that have changed their solar policies.
Yeah, yeah,
There's a lot of squabbling about this around the country.
I know.
Yeah. I wanted to show
A lot of
the
criticism of it.
this chart
Yeah.
first. So this is where, let's go to this chart first. So these are the two proposals. The scenario one, the lower basic charge proposal is a $3 increase. And then the $6 increase is the higher basic charge option. All the other basic charges kind of flow from that, right? Where the percentage change to residential rate schedule 4 flows to the other rate schedules, and everything gets kind of rounded up from there.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but do you have a total of what those changes would mean in terms of total revenue coming in on an annual basis? I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Yes.
The total rate
In
increase.
other words, out of the $61.9 million budget, how much of that would be base charge alone,
I think so.
roughly?
It's at least in chart form.
I don't need to have it right now, but I was just thinking that might help get us an idea of how much revenue comes from that versus how much
For sure.
goes to the usage.
I definitely have that. I just don't know if the dollars are
Fair enough.
there, and it might be a percentage.
Well, that's all we need.
This is what those two basic charge options look like. Compared to a lot of different utilities. There's a lot of Washington utilities in here, which most of them charge on a per day basis. It's like $1.63 per day or something like that. I'm like, that's their approach.
So it varies with the number of days in the month.
Yeah,
That's
number
weird.
number of days that you're active in a month, because we have a lot of coming and going, right?
I see.
And so that's the way that they do it. But yeah, so you've got, you mentioned Lane, they're $49. Blatchley, $56. So there's definitely some up there, but $45 is getting up there too, right? So $45 would be the $6 basic charge increase for us, and that'd be pretty high. These two slides just kind of compare the two basic charge increase options to the COSA. So the 2020, we had it only out to 2024. So the target for in the last COSA, which is getting pretty stale at this point, that's where we're gonna do it next year, was $39 last year. So if we have it at 42 this year, I'm sorry, next year, got the date wrong, or 45. So you can see, like, I think with inflation, I think those numbers look pretty good. I think we've kind of met the target for last year's, or the last version of this COSA,
Now,
with this next increase.
so 4S rate schedule, is that the sub one that
That's the
we
sub one.
here already? How long, is that open ended forever?
It's just as
long
people
as they're
sell their
active.
house, yeah, then
New owners go
Changes.
under ours.
Yeah.
About 30 customers-ish.
Oh,
If that.
yeah.
Better than that. So we don't touch, well, we update their rates when sub changes their rates, but we don't touch that.
Fair enough.
So I mean, this is a lot of numbers that just show that we've made a ton of progress on this strategic plan goal, and we're kind of there, I think, with either one of these basic charge increase options.
Yeah, I've always favored incremental approach.
Mhm.
I think we've done a good job.
At some point, you don't give people an incentive to conserve though, if you have too high a base,
Yeah.
you don't gain
Yeah.
much from conserving, so.
so, yeah.
Strategy on that per day in Washington
Yeah.
is that somebody looks at their bill and they say $1.63, right? They look over and say 31 days. It loses in the numbers. They're
That's a
not
good point.
looking at $45.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That might be part of it.
Baffled with bullshit.
I hear people say it, yeah, exactly.
It's a Pacific Corp bill, 37 line items,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, the ones that.
This is $1 a day.
yeah. We have the
That's
garbage
not
dump
too
fee
bad.
and the tire replacement fee and.
Yeah. Anytime you see people using weird units of metal like that, you gotta ask questions.
Something's going on. This attempts to kind of summarize all the different rate changes. So we've got the lower and the higher basic charge options on the two lines for basic energy and demand rates, and in general, the general rate increase, combining it all together is at the bottom two lines. So we tried to make sure that the residential sectors changing at 6%. And then kind of everything flows from that, and in general, the whole group is changing at 6%.
So how many mills are you looking at with the lower basic charge increase?
How many customers are there?
In the industrial sector,
How much is the energy rate gonna go to? Didn't we call those mills for years?
so the price per kilowatt hour?
Yeah.
It would be 0.0889, so 8.89 mils,
We're at 8.1 now?
817.
Wow.
Yeah. So that is one scenario. The other scenario is 863 with the higher basic charge.
Oh, so there's not a huge difference.
It's not a big difference. The other kind of bigger component for our commercial industrial customers is the demand rates. And we've really, and going to load following, we've got a much clearer signal on our demand costs. And then just in the future, like the cost of capacity, which is what this this charge is trying to recover from our customer, is going to be a bigger deal. And so I think it makes sense to continue a double-digit rate increase for our demand rates. It puts our demand rates 20% option, pretty high, or is it, it is,
922.
yeah, 922, a KW, or 962 a KW. We took a look at a lot of the other kind of neighboring utilities, to see where they're at, and we're pretty much right in line. We've got a few that are higher, a few that are lower, so it's pretty average. It feels really high to me. I mean, when I started, we were 350 a KW, so it feels really, really high, but it's definitely an industry trend to put more emphasis on cost recovery for demand.
So the demand then, clarify, that's what they could use?
It's a measure of the 30-minute average peak. So if you use nothing all month and you turn on a light bulb for 30 minutes, now you've got a demand that we're charging you.
Right. Where I used to work, we had, well, it's Riverbend now, but
Yeah.
we had several hundred horsepower of pressure.
Oh, yeah.
And they,
Intermittent.
some smart, finally figured out during the winter, we finally figured out this with E-Web,
Yeah.
that we would just not turn anything on
Yeah.
that month.
Yeah.
But because of what was happening, they'd go crush for a couple of days and it would cost thousands of
Yeah.
dollars.
It can set a
Better
high
off to
water
crush
mark.
one month and park the next one.
Right.
Yeah.
It can set a really high bar.
And then from the utility perspective, it's like we put all that infrastructure out there, you never use it, we get no revenue, even though we install all that, right? So that's the argument for having a high demand
We're
charge.
talking about that hay squeeze in our area where they have huge high loads, then so.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And all of that contribute, when everybody's on together, that's what contributes to our like total system peak. And that's what we get charged from Bonneville, right?
Why is it some districts, utilities do that with residential rates? Why would they bother with it for that? There's one of them, I think Flathead did that, I saw it.
Did it at a very tiny level, and I think they're gradually increasing it.
Vincent has done that too.
They had really cheap kilowatt hour rates,
dollar.
but they had a pretty
I
big.
mean, there is a big,
charge
if you got,
houses.
electric resistance heat, that's a huge demand if you multiply that.
Hot
across.
water heat,
Yeah.
hot water heater dryers.
We've talked a lot about sending the appropriate signals to customers too, just and if you show them that, you're using 14 kW in a month, where you've set a demand of, some number, like it gets them thinking about ways that they can turn things off, just like that guy
Yeah.
at the plant, right?
You don't wanna
So-
make hot water and run the dryer at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One and then do the other,
And
that's
you're
an
not-
example.
Yeah.
It's not a big moneymaker for the utility, right? It's a lower rate, but it is kind of a little bit.
It works towards keeping us out of that tier 2 peak.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Yeah, I'm just definitely saving on demand, yeah. So, that's the kind of conversation there. You can see where, commercial and industrial are, about 6 to 7%, and this is also in line where I think the higher basic charge option leaks over the 10% for irrigation, but if you round down, it's still 10%, so.
We're loaded with money, we don't mind.
Yeah, so this is, I think, I've looked back and forth to this, but these are what some of the rates could look like. This is the lower basic charge option, where again, 8.89 cents a kilowatt hour. Lot to add here. Again, grants, the total is 6% in each of these. We would work up if the board or the race committee wants to see one of the other alternatives, right? Maybe 5% in April or one of the January options, we'll do this whole exercise on with that option in mind too. I wanted to talk a little bit about just rate design sensitivity. So this is a chart showing what happened this year with actuals compared to budget, right? So we had, the orange bars are budget, and you can see January, February, there's things change, right? The weather changes and expectations really change. So when you design a rate structure that's more focused on, or it's less focused on recovering your fixed costs, and you've got kind of a lower basic charge, you're more subject to this weather variability. And there's a couple charts here that kind of demonstrate that. So this is where what I was talking about, Brian. So this is the total rate increase for each of these sectors, and the lower basic charge option shows that more of the energy. More of the rate increase is collected from the energy charge, the orange bars, and this option versus this option, which is the blue bars are the basic charge. So you can see 56% of the total rate of the increase, it comes from the basic charge here versus.
Just on a $6 basis.
Right.
Versus $3.
Right, so this is the $3 option, this is the $6 option.
Wow, that's interesting.
So when we're doing a quota in 26.
Right at the beginning of the year, we're gonna go with an RFP.
When will we have that data by budget time next year?
Definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we don't want to exceed our cost of service.
Right.
We,
No.
I think the risk is
Well,
low,
yes,
yes,
yes.
we'd rather not. You can always just pause for a while too, obviously.
Yeah, I think if we saw that, you know, we were right at cost of service with the COSA or maybe a little bit above it, we wouldn't touch the basic charge for a while. We would come up with a new plan to meet the goals of the next version of the COSA.
Of our 6% increase, what is the amount that's due to power rate going up?
2%, 2% of
30,
6.
so roughly 33%.
Yeah.
So that would lean us back towards the $3 basic charge then in terms of being equitable, correct?
Yeah.
Because it would be more like the amount that it was.
Yeah,
Because this, no, wait, I said that backwards, didn't I? No, it'll lean us towards the 6%, the 6.
The $6 because
Yeah,
more.
because the base charge would go up
Yeah,
relative.
because only a
to
third
the-
of it is from power, which is a very.
Yeah, so the higher base rate would be indicated to be equitable between that and the
Yeah, I
other.
think that's fair.
So with a higher base rate, the amount of our power sales, it leads to less variance in our revenue.
Right.
But it also de-incentivizes people to conserve.
Right.
Yeah.
I kind of joke that Emerald's just a fence building company that sells electricity for cash flow. You know, so how much of the bill is because we have to have a fence and how much is it we need the power?
Right.
Those are the two big
Right,
factors.
exactly.
One thing about the being load following now and some of the things we've done in terms of the, the dump and all that.
Yeah.
Pretty soon this is gonna, it allows us to focus on the core issue.
Try to be
Very much
simple,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's nothing wrong with simple.
So
Works good.
speaking of the dump,
Oh no, I started him.
this is,
Dog whistle.
this all.
Sorry.
How,
Yep.
where are we throwing in the short round stuff?
I don't think,
We don't know.
The only adjustments we've made is to decrease non-labor spending, not this year, but in future year
Yes.
forecasts.
Yeah.
So
Not,
non-labor, yeah.
2026 is pretty much status quo.
okay,
From the last
so we
couple
don't
years.
even really have to look. Right, because it won't, any revenue changes will be beyond that.
28
sure.
would be the start.
So any of the expected revenue wouldn't be until 2028.
I think even the tax credit, there's a question about when the tax credit would come, but I think it's not gonna be next year.
And it's one of those things that you're just, like, it's hard to budget for it now when.
Right, so kind of like essentially it's a.
Yes.
It's-
Yeah, I mean, if it happens, then all of a sudden the world changes, right? And
Right,
we
but
have a decision to make.
Okay.
We talked about using that money for particular purposes, in which case it may not affect the budget, the standard budget, but that's gonna be a big conversation, obviously.
So let's spend money when.
Yeah, that's a good question. We haven't talked about it.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like there's enough sense yet.
Wait till we get the signed contract.
Well, it seems to my mind that the higher base rate increase might be the better choice in terms of the equitable split between the additional cost of the power and the cost of all operations. Base charge clearly is a labor oriented thing
Yeah.
to keep the fence mended.
I mean, that's not a bad way to look at it.
I just.
2 out of 6% is power cost.
Yeah. That's 2/3, 1/3 split basically.
Right.
That indicates pretty much where that'd be.
This will be another thing we dive in with rate committee on, just ask them what they're thinking. We have a few proponents on there that are big multimeter discount folks, and so I'm gonna be interested to hear that. We're probably back where we were and then some.
It's a pretty big jump for the base rate, probably
Yeah.
the biggest one.
Yeah. So you had some folks with the second meter 2 years ago that, didn't like paying $31 or whatever, we're probably, if you increase it here, we're back to that.
Back to-
So,
So 31.
So they have a $3 bill, right, or increase? If we raise the other six, we're gonna raise that one 3, isn't it? half
yeah,
the rate
I
of
think it's just
here?
the principle for them is,
No,
You
I think they go up a full 6 because we've already given them the discount.
they pay $14 less than whatever the
Yes.
basic charge is, so they get a $14 discount.
Nobody likes their rates going up. I
Why
know I
is
don't,
that?
but that's life how it is.
It's less costly for us to serve, you know, if you already got service at a house, just to run a second line. We did some numbers around it.
It's like all issues with rate.
Do other utilities do it?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
become
some
more
do.
common. Lane does it now, I think Black.
All rate designs are not exactly perfect, you know that.
Yeah,
You can't make it.
we had,
perfectly fair
there wasn't a
for
lot of
that.
them, but we had a very vocal minority of folks that just didn't
We
like.
hashed
it.
that over for quite a while before we finally came to a conclusion.
Yeah,
Long time.
yeah.
How's manual meter reading going? Is it petered out? Is
As
it,
far as opt-out,
are we still doing opt-outers? Is it
We are.
staying about stable or?
yeah, it fluctuates up
They
and
stuck
down,
with it
but
pretty
it's-
much? Somebody moves in and sells a house, it switches or? Yeah,
we're probably in the 180s,
I see.
180 meters.
What, 20,000 meters,
Yeah.
something like that? Right about.
Well, 23,000 meters.
Yeah, it's gone down a little bit, but it's
It's
kind
not
of.
very many, is it, really?
The people have manual meters.
Yeah, that we read.
The opt-outers that didn't want their
So
automatic.
you gotta go read those.
We charge them
Hey,
Yeah, they pay extra on their bill for that, it's a manual, we get $12.50 a month,
$10.
$10.
That's amazing people
We-
are used to do that. They care that much about it, really is.
I know.
Well, I'll say it's better than having a parade of people come in here and meeting and talk about how we don't let them have an opt-out. We have other utility examples. That still happens.
In their tin hats.
Yeah,
Well-
well, they think it's bad for them.
I know, I understand.
So $10 a month is pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Well, they care enough to pay their own,
Like,
$120 a
If you
year.
listen to it, you still to this day, every single
Every
meeting,
meeting.
they get a parade of folks that know about that issue.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Burn out hippies.
Well, that's like 7/10.
Careful, you're on public.
It's pretty
That's
much.
true.
Bruce, yeah.
I was just curious how it lasted. You know,
Yeah.
people when we put their money up, I guess that's fine, as long as we're not costing us money.
Yeah.
Any other questions for me for now?
Good work, sir.
He'll be back.
Back.
BJ.
Wasn't he great? Let's give him a hand. He'll be back.
Sir is bringing orders. Want a break, or we're gonna move on to the next two?
Let's get it done.
Okay.
Hey, who's excited about our monthly topic?
Think we're close, we're getting close.
Okay, so as you know, we've been doing multiple discussions about the compensation review process. And we were trying to get some agreement and decisions on a couple different things. One of them was that COLA timing and the market wage adjustments. So just a quick recap, we have finalized those in the last meeting. So the decision from that was cost of living will be done for all employees. That'll take effect on January 1st. And then the market wage adjustments for those positions that are eligible for it will take effect on July 1.
And how many per people will that roughly be?
For this upcoming one,
The
it'll
market
depend
wage
on,
adjustment.
it will depend on the number of positions that become eligible as
For a
a
step.
new data. So, cause we'll have new market data when we
We
before we
mostly
get
talk
ready
about
to do it.
linemen. Is that specifically what it's about, or does it affect everybody in the district? All the employees, I mean.
For a market wage adjustment?
Yeah.
It depends on the data. So basically what we'll plan to do is rerun the compensation review after the Milliman market data gets published. And then if we can, we'll also kind of check around locally to see if there's any new data that we haven't collected yet. That will then tell us as of that time, what positions would be eligible for it. I'll try to pull this up while we're talking here. I'll try and pull up how many currently are.
That'd be a good idea.
Yeah, I'll brought my computer
Who
this time,
were,
so let's.
who were due last year, in other words?
Well, I can tell you as of, cause I just did the review.
Oh, based on the current information.
Yeah, I can tell you based on the current information, so. Let me take a look here,
There's 3 funds.
pull that up. And number of employees, gosh, I'll have to look back. So the linemen plus the related positions or positions that are aligned. Are eligible, and then we have one other position outside of that.
See,
That's eligible as of right now, based on that data. I'll have to run a quick count before the end of the meeting on how many that equates to as far as actual number of individuals, but those are the positions that are eligible. Okay, so we decided, let's do those effective dates. Again, January 1st for COLA, July 1st for market wage adjustments. We'll rerun the numbers again before making any market wage adjustments to see who's eligible based on the new data. But before we could decide on how to define the target specific to the lineman wage, there were a couple questions and some requests from kind of just additional information to get a feel for what the impact would be or what we're striving for. So just to kind of recap what we've previously done for our wage targets for a long time, you would have heard that language, 75th percentile. That was something that was floating around for a long time.
Since I've been.
Yeah, exactly. And so in 2024, though, we started to kind of change that language and we were talking about let's be a leader in pay or let's be on the higher end of the 6 local utilities. And again, this is specific to the line wage, right? That 75th percentile was historical for all positions. This 2024 conversation was more narrowed down and looking at what are we going to do with the line wage specifically. So what we've talked about in these last few meetings is if we're working towards getting a new target and defining that, we came up with a few different options. One of them was to be the leader in pay out of those 6 local utilities. So always striving to be the highest. Or be within the 75th percentile, which matches how we've historically strived for all the other positions as well. In this case, that would mean 2nd or 3rd of the 6, or just be in the upper half of the 6 local utilities, very similar to option number 2. And then you might remember our recommendation was to go with number 2, that 75th percentile. And I believe, Dale, I think it was your question about what's the spread?
You've tried both of them.
Okay, yeah, so what's the spread? What does that look like? So I think it was in the cover letter, we were kind of highlighting what we're predicting the 2026 spread would be. We had
62,000.
No, talking about the hourly wage. So we don't have all the numbers yet for 2026 because not everybody's established their 2026 wage, but we did do some estimates, some predictions based on conversations and historical data as far as how they've changed their wages in the past. So we're predicting for 2026, the lowest will be around $66.97 and the highest will be around $70.36. So we took that.
that's discounting the cost of living adjustment or with that included?
This would be both, like all, when the final wage is done,
Okay.
this is what we're predicting, our best guess as of right now. What we did is we took that same thing and we applied it to, just to show you historically what that spread has looked like. So you can see from 2020 through what our prediction here is for 2026.
It's changed up
lowest
to
wage.
5 years.
Yeah, so you can see in 2020, here was the lowest wage, here was the highest wage and the difference. So for each year, so it's, last year was the hardest one.
40% increase in 5 years.
Yeah.
It's our cost of living. John crazy.
Now, I will
You know how
say,
many increase I've had in 5 years?
I think part of the concern, Dale, if I remember right, was if we're shooting for 75th percentile, how far are we potentially jumping to get there? And I think in that last meeting, there was some discussion about maybe it being like a $10 spread. It was much smaller than what we were remembering off the top of our head. So as you can see, it's not near that amount, but you can also see the history that it has
Well,
changed.
even if we say we're gonna be 100 percentile and we adjust, we gotta wait for everybody
So it was
else,
a timing issue, yes.
Yeah.
That's
no
correct.
matter what. So the language would put in language we strive to be 100%.
I think that's,
That's actually exactly where we get to.
That sends a message.
Yeah, I'll show you, not only do we use the word strive, but we also use the term at implementation. So at the time we do this,
And if some other utility jumps it up, it's out of our control.
I think I kind of changed. I don't think that 75 number should be out there. Because,
Correct.
even if that's because it'd be, put yourself as a line, well, I'm only 75% as good.
yeah,
Or was
Correct.
worthy as somebody else.
As one other utility,
Huh?
one other utility, because that's essentially what you're looking at.
Right, but still, yeah,
Yeah, that's great, that's a good argument.
it's not to just,
Kind of agree, Kurt.
I mean, leave our, not have a hard number out there. That's 75.
You
Have
can't make 75 come out of 6, it doesn't work unless we have half of it.
True. It's second or third,
Yeah.
Yeah, second or third is really
But-
what we're striving for.
I think it's a nod to the fact that we never have perfect information. So the timing's always different. So try to be the leader, the exact leader is, it's gonna be a fool's
Right.
errand.
And this is their wage.
It's
It
gonna-
doesn't address the
That's the other thing.
benefits.
It's not total
I think-
benefits. Yeah,
I think We're a leader in.
Yeah.
I don't know who would have better benefits. I don't.
If we do say we're gonna strive for 100%, and you know these guys all talk to each other,
That's just another number.
they just all talk to
Yeah.
each other. You have to make real clear that
Yeah.
there's stuff out of the control, that it doesn't get to the 100%, somebody steps
Sure.
over.
Yeah.
Because
Can't put that number out there either.
yeah.
I wouldn't vote for it.
Well, I didn't say 100, I mean, just that we
It
strive to be
creates
the
a nice
highest.
inflation
We
gain.
could, we could continue to do leader and pay, and just do that analysis year to year, and make your recommendation.
Or we could, let's go back real quick. We could do that third option where we just say be in the upper half of the 6
I
local
think that's what I
utilities.
would agree.
And not go with it. Now, I will say the 75th percentile is language that is used, well, for a couple things I would point out. One, it's been around, Dale, like you nodded.
Forever.
That's been terms that employees have known and heard about forever. So from an employee standpoint, it is a number that's already been out there historically. The other thing I would mention with the 75th percentile, and this is not an argument to keep it, but just information to consider. Milliman also uses that term. So they break all of their data out into 25th percentile, 50th percentile, 75th percentile. And when you are comparing your data, what you're trying to do is if you're going with that 50th percentile, we're usually taking our middle range. Normally, you would take your middle range and compare it to the 50th percentile to say, I'm in line with market.
Just so you don't.
What we're
drop it.
doing, what we're doing is we're comparing our second step to that mid-range to ensure that we're a leader in pay too. So we've got some things built in automatically that help us stay, as we said earlier, leader in pay. But they do break it out into percentiles like this too. But given the conversation, I mean, and again, specific to the lineman wage, that upper half could do the trick for us if we wanted. So option 3 instead of option 2.
Well, just try to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you can either do that, or you can say we will strive to be the leader in pay. And understand
Not the leader, a leader.
A
a leader
leader,
in pay,
yeah.
We're getting off to awful weird English.
Yeah, we are.
We're not a bunch of lawyers. I vote for upper half.
That works.
Have you heard any conversation from the line crew about this at all?
I wish Mark were
I
here
think
to
they
speak
know
on
we're
that.
looking at it, they know that, there is a change that we're expecting sometime next year. So we've communicated that to them, that we've done the analysis and, they're due for an upgrade at some point, so that's kind of been, we haven't heard like a lot of uncertainty or griping about it.
No, I do think that they stay informed about what's happening locally, but
Yeah.
again, I don't think it's.
Well, saying most plan to be in the upper half of the 6 local utilities, another way of saying we plan to be above the average for the industry.
Yeah,
That's
That works.
That's almost better wording than upper half.
I think that's fine,
Strive to be above average for the industry and increases, period.
and part of that.
Numbers are dangerous because people say, you said.
You don't wanna lock
74%.
yourself.
I only got 74.8.
But
Yeah.
now
You know,
make
that's-
sure they understand.
Numbers are trouble. They, people in their head
It
think, you
locks
just
you
said it
in.
yourself. They think it's a promise.
I like that, and it is a nod, this, we don't necessarily have to be the leader because we have great benefits on the other end too. So
Yeah.
It's a total compensation.
Well,
which-
it gets to be an arms race.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, we're leaping by $8 or $10 an hour every year to see who's gonna be the leader.
Yeah,
And it just gets out of hand. I mean, I want people to make a good wage, but.
Yeah.
well, and I think just to kind of add to the discussion too, what we're talking about doing with this language, like you're saying, take the number out, use something like the upper half. What we're trying to do with this too is not just to have it in our heads when we're doing the annual process, but we are in the process of creating basically a playbook for our compensation process. So we
Yeah.
have documented
Fair enough.
steps and we can show consistency. And then if we do have a change, It's intentional, it's documented, so we can say, this is how we did it in this year, and here's why we changed it, and here's how we do it now.
Yeah.
So that language can help and by putting it in there, not with just the process, but also documentation of what we've done over the years too. So
And when you say putting it in there, putting it in where?
we're actually building right now a compensation handbook, if you will, that gives all the instructions and information about how we do our annual compensation. So one, that we have consistency, but two, so we're capturing all these decisions through the years. Like, for example, that 75th percentile thing that's been around for years, we could never actually find any documentation on that. So we want to make sure that we have documented what our strategy is and what our process is, and then capture changes as we go.
Yeah, cause they interpret it completely different than what,
You
yeah,
know,
get it spelled
the
out.
Milliman
Yeah.
story kind of is a little bit, because they're talking about 75%, 50%, whatever. The inclination of those kind of numbers makes you think anything less than 100 is not good enough, because everybody knows 100 is perfect.
Yeah,
What they should say is we're 5% above average, or 3% below average, or 20% above average,
that's
you
true.
know, because 100 implies that you're not high enough near the target,
Yeah,
you know, and that's not really representing what we're
Yeah.
talking about here.
I like your suggestion, using a little more general language, and then
Mm-hmm.
we can bring a proposal in every year to do the July 1 thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
It's
gives
not
us
like
some
we're not gonna do all
flexibility.
we can do anyway.
Yeah,
You know, and like, even if we do, we don't know whether it
Yeah.
measures up until after the fact, so.
Well, and like we saw during the pandemic too, right now, we know normally all of the utilities have their final wages set around like no later than May. But like we saw during the pandemic, that completely was different. We saw some as late as September because they were just doing different things. So something like this gives us flexibility to have a little bit of understanding that this is a moving target throughout the year
Yeah.
and can look very different each year too.
So is there a way, so we're always talking about wage, but our benefits, is there, I mean,
And total compensation is a valuable thing too.
yeah,
right, good, so IBW, I know I've never dealt with them, but with operating engineers, like, they have the book,
yeah,
and you look in there, and it's exactly what they
yeah.
get for healthcare.
We do,
Retirement for this and this and this, it would be nice. To be able to see something like that, so you guys can gauge
yeah.
a little bit our benefit package versus.
We can do some of that internally. We do every 5 years. I think it's still in our policy. Maybe we got taken out. We're supposed to do an external compensation review. And in that process, we always do look at qualitatively, how do we stack up against every utility on those items? We also look at percentage of total payroll load. So you look at what is your actual payroll cost, or what are your benefits cost
Right.
as a percentage of your payroll?
Yeah,
And that number tends to be somewhat useful. We can generally find ourselves kind of in the ballpark overall. We know we're higher on medical, our medical's as good as anybody's. Retirement, a little less so, because we don't have a defined, benefit plan like many do. But that, we always kind of benchmark to that total, what is the payroll load? So, but we can do some of that internally too.
I was gonna say, I do participate in benefit surveys every year, so I do one with Milliman, same company that does the compensation one. And then locally, there's usually one or two utilities who are doing some kind of process, like you were saying, every 5 years. Usually there's one going on locally that captures some of that, and whenever we participate, we get that data back in return. It doesn't tell us which utility, but so we use that general number, but we do get data on that, and Kyle's spot on his evaluation. There's some where we're lower and there's some where we're higher. So, but that total number as far as payroll load has been really helpful.
We can probably share some of that with you, we do these external analyses and they're never that great. We spend much money on them, but we have some of that information we can provide you as well.
yeah, it's just to some.
Yeah. So I think
So
go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, so maybe go more with that option 3 type of wording, sounds
Sounds
like.
like,
And there's that historical data just to kind of help give us an idea of what that spread would look like. Our recommendations, we'll swap this out, but maybe some of the things that we'll put in here, keep things like strive instead of we will be, but something along the lines of strive, and then keep that end part here where we talk about at the time of implementation, considering it is a moving target. what we were proposing for next steps would be, that board policy manual does have some information in there regarding compensation. It's pretty basic. If I remember right off the top of my head, it refers to doing an informal gathering of information for COLA every year, and then every 5 years doing external compensation review. And so I think that we can adjust the language a little bit and determine if any of the decisions that we've made here need to be captured in there or not, but look at updating that language, because at the time that that was written, we weren't doing an annual in-house process, and now we are. So I think that there might be some opportunities there to strengthen that language. And then if we do that, the idea would be to bring that back for your review and approval.
So is there any danger of establishing a policy on our compensation that could be harmful to us? If somebody gets irritated and
Of the board or the employee?
Confused.
either way, not necessarily.
Depends on the for election.
But if somebody, some disgruntled employee could say, well, look at their policy, it's obvious they don't wanna pay.
Yeah, so
I mean-
how it's phrased right now, let me know if this meets your needs. The playbook that we're creating is an in-house process. It's a guide to use internally, not a policy. The policy would cover how we're going to review compensation and frequency. And so in that case, what I could see it saying is very similar to the language now, where it's saying for COLAs, annual, and then, we'll gather for the remaining compensation, we can either leave it high level that we'll do some kind of like commit to that we will be doing a process annually and keep it pretty simple and not have any numbers or targets listed in that. That might meet the needs.
We can run that by our HR attorney. as well.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And 'cause sometimes a policy can, if there's no policy, it's
Yeah.
better than. to
Yeah,
have a
that's a good
policy.
point.
A double-edged sword.
I don't want
Yeah.
this to live somewhere, so we don't always start from scratch every year, but we'll
No,
ask her.
but it
Yeah,
was-
she,
yeah.
Board today.
I think she can give us some advice on whether that's gonna get us in
If
trouble.
it's an
It's gonna be a
internal
fall
guide.
guy, Kurt, no matter what.
Yeah.
We're gonna be the fall guys no matter what if we play.
I think we've been doing great.
You guys have been great, yeah.
The past, for the entire time I've been on the board.
Very
I think
supportive.
that we've managed it effectively and fairly every single year.
I mean, you've seen the wage inflation, you just looked at that
Oh,
6-year
sure.
chart, it's unbelievable.
Huge.
You know,
Yeah.
but what do you do? I mean,
Well, we've seen it in this boardroom.
yeah. There's no doubt it's impactful. We just wanna have some kind of a standardized process that we can take, so we're not coming in here every year and saying, hey, remember what we did last year? This should be something we can repeat without a whole lot of.
And show that we're
That's not a raise.
continuously looking at that top of mind.
We're gonna look at that third quarter, fourth quarter.
So I just wanna clarify before we wrap up here. Are we okay, is everybody okay with doing that option 3 type of language where we're talking about upper half and keep it generic to striving, and at the time of
I like that.
implementation, everybody
Average.
comfortable with that?
I like
Strive to be above average.
Good blow.
To get rid of 70%.
No numbers, no numbers. It implies a promise.
On the dock, it's gonna be
Yeah.
hard to get rid of that.
I can-
You need to,
I can
you
talk
need
to
to
them.
explain that,
Oh, yeah.
not just there it is.
There's a lot that I think we can talk to them about.
Oh, they'll understand if you explain it.
Yeah,
Well, 3 of them will understand it, the rest, and then they'll explain it over 2 weeks' time.
they're pretty.
Well, nobody's planning to take anything
No,
away from anybody.
not at all.
There's just more practical language.
Yeah, just understanding this is a market that we're in, we wanna make sure it's repeatable and sustainable.
I think our end result speaks
Yeah.
for itself,
Yeah,
whatever
Well-
we end up with.
it speaks for ourselves both in terms of the wages and in terms of retention, we keep
Right.
good people here. Reason for that, part of it's culture, but a lot of it is because you all have kept up with wages, that's important.
Okay, I think I have the
Alright.
direction we wanna go. Okay,
Nice work.
thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we got left to do.
We just have a little contract to go through with you real quick.
Yeah.
Like they start earlier, they don't get it.
Yeah.
I was getting up at 4 for last.
Provider of choice contract review.
All right,
It just wasn't under.
with exhibits, I think it was 100.
The way I guarantee you, Mark is not thinking,
Got it? No, you
his
guys
feet are wet.
don't put up here too much.
Well, they are.
I guess he's not dedicated to the job.
Well, he's dedicated to the job right now.
So we just got our contract with VPA last week for the next contract period from 2028 to 2047. Is that right? 2044, excuse
What might be
me.
the biggest decision we ever make on this board?
This is a big one.
Damn,
Yeah,
you
you
put
put
it around when it's time to get the next one.
He put it, he said.
Yeah, on this board, yeah. probably
I got
true.
that.
That's a big one.
Not to worry, guys, but it's.
Just as far as the background drama, there was some talk last week at PPC that Bonneville's getting pressure from DOE to potentially give some preference power to data centers and other things. And so there are certain groups within public power saying you should sign your contract as soon as possible because that will prevent them from doing anything bad with our preference power. So
I heard that from another local GM last week.
And what else, the IOUs are wanting actual power versus
well, that
residential
too, yeah.
exchange.
Residential exchange, the IOUs are taking the stance that they should get physical power, including the environmental attributes that go along with that, rather than what we had, which is just a financial exchange where we've been under a long-term negotiated settlement. That goes away after the current contract. So, yeah, I guess if we have the rights to that through a contract, that helps too. There's reasons to do this quicker than,
Sign it tomorrow.
yeah, I mean, I hate to make a decision like this overnight, so it feels like at least waiting until the next meeting would be appropriate. But that's,
What's gonna change?
Yeah.
There's not a lot.
I don't see anything change.
What's
okay,
changing?
and that's fine, yeah. If you guys are good with that, I know Patty's,
Do we really have?
I know Patty's
It's
good
the
with
only
it. so
place to, it's not like we got three Bonneville picking it.
She's good with it. She wanted to sign as soon as
I
possible.
think we just will get it done.
Okay.
So I need to move forward here, or we?
We don't, do we have a resolution? I don't think we.
You wanna give us
We don't,
Brian?
we don't have a resolution, but
Rob said.
We could, if you wanna make a motion, you could authorize me to sign the provider of choice contract. We could turn that into a resolution and have Kurt sign it.
Yeah, I'd make a motion that we have Kyle sign the provider of choice contract.
I second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, you guys are easy.
Get her done.
Well, what else are we gonna do?
Other fish to fry.
Hey, you know, we got carbon free power here. We're stupidly on jumping the bait.
I think it's a really good decision. I mean, I agree. A public process be damned, but you know, who's gonna argue with it? And,
We don't have a choice.
you know, the,
We just drank the cool.
That's the longest term decision we've ever made. You did it in 3 seconds.
well,
But we all know the issues.
You have no idea how much that scared us when it said.
you guys just spent $500 million.
yeah.
For a long time. We should have Rob.
People ever look at that.
Through his
People ever look
slides.
at the transcript, you see.
Yeah, right.
He's gonna go.
Well,
But we all clearly know the issues and the risks involved.
I will say, like, yeah, the chances of getting it Bonneville to change anything in the contract are zero. So we could say we don't like something, they're not gonna listen to us.
Well, there-
So it's kind of a take it or leave it.
Yeah.
It's a nuclear generator in your pocket.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I would like to run through this slide real fast.
He's gonna give it up.
Because.
It works, 4 days.
Shocking down.
Yeah, sorry, I'll skip all the boring review.
Red takes it so well.
I'm happy, I'm get that behind me, to be honest. But there's still a couple of things that are ahead of us. You know, signing this contract is a major milestone, but there are some other big decisions next year. And I wanted to, and earlier, I wanted to highlight a few of those. So we gotta get these contracts to them. I think we just did that. So they're gonna return the contracts back to us probably. I think Kevin can probably sign them pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Our account executive will be the countersigner for Bonneville.
You will.
Yeah,
Joe's on sign.
no. Teresa Lockwood, or Teresa
Oh, yeah, Walker up with okay.
Rockwood, yeah. Anyway, here are the couple things I wanted to go through. So the day ahead market implementation is like a major black hole in these contracts. There is one little paragraph that says that we will deal with this later. And so later starts December 5th, there's kind of there's a major workshop that's happening where Bonneville's gonna start talking about implementation. The current thinking is that the go live date for Market Plus will be the first day of provider of choice contracts. But there's so much to talk about of how these things are gonna get implemented, how Bonneville is going to pass along the benefits and the costs of participating in Markets Plus. So that's a major thing that Mitch and I will be paying attention to over the next few years.
This will happen as of like October of 28, correct?
Yeah, that's the current thinking, like October 1, it will be go live for Markets Plus.
Got it.
It doesn't make any sense to do it any sooner. It may get delayed just because of these things take a long time to see, but it's not gonna happen any sooner. But there's a lot to talk about there, and what will have the kind of the logistics of it, there will be there'll be an amendment to these contracts. That to sign sometime in the next couple of years. The contract high watermark process is another major thing. They're going to do that kind of probably the first half of next year, where they establish our tier 1 allocation for next for 20 years. So it doesn't change, it's fixed for the whole period. And so and 60 days after that establishing that contract high watermark, we have to choose how we're going to serve our tier 2 loads. And so we're gonna have tier 2 loads at the start of the contract. We're gonna have more tier 1 because of Short Mountain resource removal.
Right.
The system size is a little bit bigger, but we're gonna bring in some choices on which tier 2 option we want to go with. There's a few terrible options, and there's probably 1 or 2 good ones. None of them have price tags right now, so we have no idea what we're going to pay for this stuff. That's gonna be a really difficult decision probably. And it's probably gonna be the least worst option is.
Rob, that means we're gonna choose what Bonneville will provide us for tier 2,
Right.
meaning supplies or.
Yeah, I mean, carbon content will be a big one. What is how will they? We won't get a price for capacity, but we'll know, we'll have like a characteristic of how they're going to charge us for capacity.
I see.
What will it be a long-term rate or will it be a short-term rate? Like there'll be there's a couple of different options and each one of them are gonna have trade-offs that we'll talk about.
Okay.
So that'll happen next year.
Is that also a
the tier
20-year plus commitment?
You have one option you have a choice, a year after your first election, you can change. But as far as I know, like there's no other options
So
to change.
in summer of 29, we could jump ship and trade it to a different.
A different tier 2 option. I think that's because we'll start to get rates at that point, and so we'll know like what some of these options are gonna cost.
Okay.
And so you'll have the option to change. Part of that will be a conversation about our resource preferences, right? Do we want to just be all in on Bonneville tier 2, or do we want to keep the door cracked on non-federal resources?
I don't do that as a load follower.
Yeah, you can.
I didn't know
It's not, it's expensive and it helps hedge against, I think some utilities are looking at it as a way to hedge against tier 2 price increases. There's not a lot of, Bonneville's gonna be in the market just like everybody else, looking for resources because there's gonna be a lot of tier 2 load put on them. And increasing, right? Like the loads are increasing in the region, so there's a lot of uncertainty about their own resource options.
Is tier 1 is a rate case arrangement, is tier 2 then basically market rates that Bonneville sets separately?
Yeah, but it goes through the same sort of Devon high process, they call it, it's a rate making process, which is the next major thing, right? Like,
Ultimately, we'll have a 2-year price commitment on tier 2,
Yeah.
just like any other rate.
Right.
I understand.
and so we're in this BP 26 rate period now as of last week, October 1st. That's 3 years long, and then the first of the provider of choice rates periods is BP 29. They call it PRDM, it's public rate design methodology. That's another major milestone in this. That we'll be paying attention to. Anyway, those are a few things I want to highlight. We'll be back. Once we get this thing signed, it'll be probably quiet for a couple of months, and then we'll be back early next year, maybe second quarter of next year, talking about those tier 2 options.
Original,
See you next year.
we can skip that, we already got that one.
That's an easy project.
Yeah,
We see
I
you
pointed
next
out
year.
that there's no room to really change these
No.
contracts, so like it is what it is.
Eric charges all sought after resource on the west coast. They-
Yeah, most of the
And
value.
it's not like
We're in
we've
no
been
position.
talking about it for 2 years.
Yeah,
Yeah, no surprises.
So this time it'll be a 3-year period, then Bonnet will come back with a rate adjustment,
two.
plus or minus. Two.
it'll be plus.
Guaranteed.
Well, it'll be 2-year periods and then they'll do another rate increase likely.
This
after
3 is
that.
because it equals out to the 28
Yeah.
changeover.
What do they call that, where they go back and see how they've done? And we get money back.
Oh, yeah, and that's only if they hit certain thresholds during the rate period, so if they have a really good water year, they can do a, what do they call that?
Reverse crack.
Yeah, reverse crack,
Yeah.
a distribution clause, something
Yeah,
reserved.
That happened a few years ago.
A couple of years ago,
Yeah, we did that, didn't we?
about $1 million.
That's when the slice was working well, because there's lots of water.
It was a good water year, yeah. So that can happen at any time, but
You're slicing the
We're
water.
gonna get a slice credit this year, actually. That's a different thing, but
Wow.
get about $400,000.
Our last one,
yeah, that's right.
that's something.
That's
Have a party.
yeah.
Just think, you don't have to hedge any power this year for.
It's been nice,
December to
we've been into it
February.
now for 7 days.
Think about that.
We paid our last hedging bills this week.
Oh, yeah.
And that felt really good.
That's gotta feel like you
They were-
graduated
they were-
high school.
They were paying the bills. but it-
RD.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't worry about water supply and all that.
That's gotta, every fall, that's gotta be a nail biter,
What are you gonna be bored?
Huh?
You're gonna be bored.
All this, no.
No, we still have the county to deal with.
Oh, dude.
So I think what I'll do is I'll sign the contract
That's
based
an
on,
easy one.
based on that vote, I'll sign it, and then we'll bring a resolution maybe back to the full board, just so you can go on record, but I'll sign it based on the vote today. That's okay.
Now we need to sign off that we voted on it.
Yeah, we got it in the minutes, that's fine, but just as a redundant formality thing, I'll bring a resolution back next meeting.
Actually, it's gratifying to know it's done.
Yeah.
Effectively, it's done.
Yeah, we might be the second, I don't know, there was one that signed on the first day.
It speaks to the fact that you're committed when you do it. You're the first ones back. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, it shows confidence in Bonneville, right? It shows that they're our long-term partner and.
It makes our rep, gain
Yeah.
points internally.
Well, they've done a lot of work for us in the last couple of years, especially.
Well, the deal on the dam, the dump is a big thing, yeah.
That's a big deal.
That was a big help for us.
The load following change, that didn't have to happen, it was very optional.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks, guys.
Are we still on?
Good work, Rob.
November.
Thank
We
you.
give you crap, we love you.
It's looking at.
You take it well.
But they can extend that too. That tax rate.
So we're public comment?
Nobody on, nobody on.
Kyle.
Well, they're not that
He's a
possible.
pretty quiet guy.
What's he
Say
want?
much. He doesn't say much.
Never say.
Nothing, yeah, you talking about the project out here?
Yeah. Is that?
What's quote? Oh, we can't talk about what.
Yeah, so since we're public, I'll just say it's, the timeline's looking in jeopardy. It's looking in jeopardy, the timeline. Not from our doing, but things are slowing down, so.
Enough said.
I think we're still gonna have it, but there's some questions about whether that's a real date in November. They seem to think there's flexibility there, and
What? Yeah.
Let's not talk
it's a long
about it
story.
here.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
It's the right time and place.
But keep you posted.
Alright.
Okay, thank you all.
Kill it.
I know more as a time of lunch.